Good evening, Simon here, Explosive Action, and we are back with another metal related video. We are going to be doing the metal tag for 2021. This is a list of 20 questions put together by the Rock Scout YouTube channel. I will leave a link below, which is not where I originally heard of this from. I first saw this video series from Ben Brainsmasher, and also Matt at the Dark Path also did the 2021 metal tag. I thought I'd give it a go. So here we are, 20 questions. The first one is a band that has a poor vocalist. Music spoiled by the vocals, and there's only really one that stood out to me. Now, I don't keep anything that I don't like. My collection is things I like. If I don't like it, I sell it, or I trade it, I give it away, it's gone, and I forget that it ever existed. There's exceptions when the music is so awesome that I will keep it and I will struggle through the vocals, and in that case, it is the debut from Portrait from Sweden. This is a fantastic album I got when it came out. It's total Swedish worship of King Diamond, Merciful Fate. It's exactly the same stuff. The riffs are fantastic, the drumming is great, the overall production is very warm sound. It's just fantastic 80s sounding metal. And then there's the vocals. Guy is doing his absolute darndest. Where is he? Philip Svenenfeldt, something on the back there. He's trying his best to do a King Diamond, and he's not doing it very well. He struggles to hit those high notes, and because of the style of those vocals, it's not death metal. You can't just grunt your way through it and go, yeah, it's the vocals. He's got to try and sing, and it's not really good. Obviously, I think the band must have realised that, because from that album onwards, the second album, Crimium Lese Majestatis Divinae, bloody Latin that, from there, and Crossroads, and then finally with Burn the World. All three of those have a different vocalist who's much more suited to the music. And the music on these albums is great, but I still think the first album, the debut, has the strongest material. Fresh new band, really giving it their all. I just wish that this guy was doing the vocals on that album. Second question, an album that you like that is spoiled by its production. And well, this may be low-hanging fruit, but it's true, and that is Suffocation, Breeding the Spawn. I know I'm not the only one to feel this way, lots of people do. And in the grander scheme of, you know, millions of death metal bands that now exist, this is not that bad. Of course, there's plenty of things that sound like toilet, but this album is so strong in the song department that it's such a shame that the production fell flat. It opens okay, like with Beginning of Sorrow, it's not too bad. Then Breeding the Spawn itself, the drums sound, particularly the kicks, they just sound so sloppy, which is, you know, some of the best death metal drumming is in Suffocation, so that's not what you want. You can get through that one, but then by third track, Epitaph of the Credulous, somebody turned the treble all the way up and it starts to sound like a really bad quality demo, and it stays that way the whole time. The vocals are not too bad in the mix. The guitars are sometimes okay depending on the tracks. The drums are just shot. It is a flat sounding album, and again, the band knew this because Breeding the Spawn ended up getting re-recorded and chucked onto the end of Pierced from Within, which is one of the best sounding death metal albums. In fact, I'd say this is a perfect sounding death metal album. They should all sound like this. And yeah, well, Breeding the Spawn got added as a bonus track and sounds so much better on this album. So yeah, that is my answer for that question. Poor quality production is Breeding the Spawn. Third question is a band that is spoiled by a weak member. Now, I could obviously just say that Portrait debut again. And I also say the same thing, that if I don't like something, overall, I don't keep it. And I did struggle very hard with this question because I couldn't really think of somebody in a band that spoiled the overall music. The only thing that came into mind, and it only affects one album, is Possessed, Seven Churches. Step away, don't yell at me. It's a fantastic album. Larry Lalonde is amazing on guitars on this. Jeff on vocals, fantastic. Mike Suss on drums, he's a bit sus. The fills are sloppy, he's late to the party and almost everything. The timings are way off. It's for song, like doesn't get better as it goes on. It starts bad with Exorcist, it keeps getting fairly bad with, you know, Seven Churches, and ending on death metal. The final track, still not much better. But again, this is very hard for me to say because I love the album. I wouldn't change it. Am I really saying that it suffers from having a poor member? Not really. If something was going to suffer, I wouldn't like it and I wouldn't have it at home. But really, if you're going to pick something, I'm going to pick Possessed, particularly on Seven Churches, because the drumming is just not as good as the rest of the band. Number 4 is an album that defines heavy, something that's heavy. So what is heavy to people? It's different. Some people think heavy is fast. Some people think heavy is screamed vocals, or some people think heavy just starts and ends with Black Sabbath. But for me, heavy is thick and booming and generally slow and crunchy, and it doesn't get better than Forgotten with Streams from the Heavens. This, their debut album from 1994, I think it is. This is supremely heavy. The guitars just chime out all the way through the song, all the way through the album. There are 6 tracks I think on this one, and it goes for forever. Like, it is a long album with long songs, and it's absolutely epic. The vocals are down there, pits of hell. They are heavy and low. The drums are slow and methodical and have a big boom to them, which is what happens with anything Funeral Doom. But a crack of the snare, it echoes out. Kick of the drum, it shakes the room. But man, the guitars in this is what it's all about for heavy for me. Forgotten, Streams from the Heavens. Heavy as it's going to get. Number 5, show an album that was recommended to you by the music community. I've had plenty of things recommended to me over the years. That's the best thing about being in the music community, and just in metal community in general. I've always had recommendations from friends over the years, and I give recommendations freely and all the time. But the last recommendation, one of the last ones I got, was only about 2 weeks ago, and that was for this album, Fermenting Innards, band I'd never heard of from Germany. This album's called Mist. I think it's a one and done band. This is all they did, and this came recommended in a YouTube video by Analog Archives mid-January. He did a video on lesser known and awesome albums, and he picked this one. I thought it looked great. The cover was fantastic, and the description he gave was that it was kind of a strange album, and that's so damn right. You think it's Fermenting Innards. I mean, that's the name of a Carcass song from Reek of Putrefaction, but is it brutal death metal? No. Is it icy black metal? Sometimes. This thing's all over the shop. It goes from fast, sort of Swedish sounding black metal. It does get chuggy death metal riffs in it, and then there's songs that just sort of almost go goth metal with clean vocals. Every song is very different. It's almost like a pop musician's approach to a metal album, but every song doesn't sound like the last song, and that's really interesting. I put it into my wish list on Discogs, and it was there instantly, so I picked it up from an Australian seller, and I've been really enjoying it. It's, as I said, it's very, very strange. There's the CD there, but yeah, I really appreciated this recommendation, and very happy to pick it up on Invasion Records. So that's Fermenting Innards with Mist, recommended by Analog Archives. Number 6, show an album that takes your musical taste in another direction. I'm a metal guy. I have 99.99% of my stuff is metal. I've got a few dark ambient albums, but you could tie that to metal through usually the artist that made them. And it's dark, it relates. So what am I going to answer to this question? And that would be Billie Eilish with When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? This is a fantastic pop album. She is a very different musical artist for me. I have not found a quote-unquote pop artist that I have, I'll just say, ever liked. Bands from the 80s that people like, even nostalgic, no, never had any real interest. It's just not a thing for me. All the modern and by modern I mean, 90s and onwards, sort of girl singers, everything from Britney through to Beyonce, is just no interest to me. That style has got nothing for me. I'm not interested. There's something happened here when I listened to Billie for the first time. I think it's all down to the minimalistic nature of the music. She is very breathy and very subdued in her vocal performance. She doesn't belt out warbly diva nonsense that drives me up the wall. It's subtle. The music itself is just, usually bass lines and a few beats and a few keyboard things. Like, there's not much really there, but it makes for a nice simple hook melodies with her vocals that are, it depends. Some of the bigger tracks like Bad Guy that people know, that's more of a, as kids would say these days, a banger. I hate that word, but most of the other tracks on the album are more, the impression I get is there's a girl, she's only 17 in this thing, that is far beyond her age in her approach. It sounds more like something from from the 30s, like the dimly lit jazz bar with the girl that sits on the piano and croons to the army men. Some of her stuff reminds me of that, and as you can tell by the cover as well, she's pretty quirky and the sound is quite dark. The songs are all fairly morose, and even when she's singing in a happier sound, the lyrics are messed up. So that's why I like it. Billie Eilish with her debut album from 2019. That's my pick. Number 7, a gem from your collection. Plenty of gems in this collection I could have picked. I could have gone with the most expensive, the most interesting, the most nostalgic, I don't know, the most unknown. But for me, the best gem is the thing that I covet the most, the one that is like, I'm never letting this go. That is the Abigail Hornix box. Wow, what a beast of a thing this is. This is all of the classic Abigail releases from their days on Napalm Records. I'll quickly go through them. Oh, and you get a massive book as well. The whole thing is just an absolute beast. So you get the book, which has awesome photos and information and lyrics. It's kind of hard to show. You get album 1, Verweston, which has always been my favorite. Album 2, Blockblut, which is awesome. Number 3, Nachthimen, a great album. Generally one that most people think is their favorite. It's probably my second favorite. Opus 4, which is just a belter. This thing absolutely rages. Fantastic album. The Apocalypse EP, which is probably one of the best EPs ever made. They, after 4 albums of getting more and more symphonic, just said, no, we're not doing that for this. Ripped out the keyboard and went raw as hell. Amazing. And then Supreme Immortal Art, probably their most symphonic thing they ever did. This box set is everything you want with Abigail and is absolutely a gem in my collection. Number 8, a band in your collection that formed close to where you live. So I live in Sydney here in Australia, in one of the southern suburbs, about 40 minutes out of the CBD. And there's a few bands from Sydney I could pick, but I'm going to pick this band, which is Nazul, for a few reasons. One, they are probably one of my favourite, well, they are in my top 3 Sydney bands, probably number 1 really. This EP, Black Seed, is easily my favourite Australian metal release ever. It has done many things for me, this EP. The opening track, Vow of Vengeance, impeccable stuff. And also because the main guitarist and songwriter of the band lives even closer to me than just normal Sydney. He lives about a 20-minute drive from me at this point, and that's, he's the head of the band, I guess, the main songwriter. So, and also the one of the other members of the band is who has a tattoo clinic 5 minutes from this house. So that's a pretty local band as far as I'm concerned. And Nazul, this is the Black Seed EP. So yeah, Sydney band that are very, very close to where I live. Number 9, a metal album you reach for melody-wise. Man, when I think melody, I think Swedish melodic metal, and of course, it's Dissection, it's Storm of the Light's Bane. This is chock full of melodic riffs. It is hook after hook. Everything is memorable. Nothing is thrown away. There is nothing that you'll listen to on this and not remember. It is stuck in your brain forever, which is the sign of a good melody. Absolutely astounding riffs on this thing. This is the Nuclear Blast original gatefold, which I've had for some time. Absolutely love this album, and it is by definition one of the most melodic yet still metal things that I have that I will reach for. Sure, I could have picked something power metal, might be more melodic, Blue LP. Don't reach for it though. If I'm reaching for something and I want melody, it is usually Swedish melodic death metal, and add a bit of black to it, you get Dissection, Storm of the Light's Bane. Number 10, an album in your collection that you would sell first. I'll give you 3. They are the 3 albums I've got from Toxic Holocaust. 1, 2, and 3. Why? I just don't reach for these things, man. They got a few good tracks. I mean, Nuke the Cross is a great track. The clip is hilarious, but I never reach for Toxic Holocaust. When I want black thrash, I'm reaching for Au Noir. I'm reaching for... Hell, I'll just go back and listen to, Celtic Frost or something. Like, I am rarely going to reach for Toxic Holocaust, so I'm pretty sure I'm not even going to file these back on the shelf. I think these ones are going to go. So, you want some Toxic Holocaust and you live in Australia, let me know, because these are up for sale. Number 11, which subgenre of metal would you delete from existence? I'm not a negative guy. I think I'm pretty positive. I would immediately jump for nu metal and say get rid of that filth, but I don't like it. But, the kids do, and people do seem to enjoy it. Would I say deathcore? I'm like, I'll just stick on the technicality that deathcore's not actually metal, and I'm happy enough with that. So where does that leave me? Friggin' glam metal. I'm sorry, I know there's people that watch this that like glam metal. It's not metal. Look up Rat. Look up Europe. Look up Poison. Look them up on the Metal Archives. Are they there? They are not there because they are not metal. It's hair rock. I don't care what you want to call it. Sleazy LA stuff. I know Europe's from Sweden, but whatever. Sorry, but it's not. It's, there's melody, there's cheese, there's more and more cheese, but metal to me has to have, like, a real kick to it. It has to have an edge to it. There's no edge to Poison. I just see spandex and curly hair. Not a fan. So if I'm going to delete something, I'm going to be deleting glam metal. Sorry, Mum. I know it's your favourite. Number 12. Which band would you like to see most a reissue of in 2021? This has sort of come true, but I missed it and it was too expensive. So I'm kind of hoping that they'll do regular editions. And that would be Vindir's first 2 albums, Soknadala, I've never been able to say that one, and Antor, the second album. These guys, this is absolutely astounding late 90s, early 2000s Viking black metal. 2 of my favourite albums. And I mean, going back to when I was first buying records in sort of 99 to 2000, 2001, and then I sold them all. But in that time, I had this mental image of the kind of things that I wanted on wax that would have a nice warm sound. And I kept thinking of Antor. It just has that production and that epic, Viking longboat sound that I thought this has got to sound great on wax. And they've actually done it. They finally relented after all these years, and this year are putting out a box set of all 4 albums. But man, it's a silly, ridiculous box set. It comes in a wooden box. The shipping was going to cost more than my car. I couldn't justify it. So I'm really hoping that in 2021 there'll be a simplified version, just the albums, regular sleeves of Windir, particularly their first 2 albums. That would be absolutely amazing. Number 13, which 80s metal band would you like to see a comeback album of? I had to think about this one for a little bit, and I thought, well, what would be criteria for somebody coming back? We've had plenty of 80s bands that come back, and their reformed work is nowhere near as good as their first work. So I thought, how about a band that their first album was pretty good, and you think that with modern sound they could probably do better? Sentinel Beast from 1986, I think. This is Depths of Death. Their one and only album that they put out. This was on Restless Records. I think, it was 86, maybe 87. And Metal Blade Records. These guys played a very interesting style of thrash. Kind of reminds me a bit of early Onslaught, I guess it's probably the closest. But what's really cool is a vocalist here, Debbie Gunn, who in 1986, she's got a real aggressive sound to her vocals that I thought was really complimentary to the band. The songs are fun. You got Evil is the Night, Dogs of War is a great track, Phantom of the Opera, the final track. I think these guys, it would be really cool to see them reform and have another crack at it with modern type production sound. Might not turn out that good, but I think it'd be really worth seeing. So yeah, that's my pick, Sentinel Beast. Number 14, show an alternate version of an album cover. I only have one thing that came to mind for this. So this is Psy with Scorn Defeat. This came out on Death Like Silence Productions. I think this was their first or maybe their second. Anti-Mosh number 001 it says. Unless that's a 7. It's probably a 7, but anyway. Early release on Death Like Silence Productions. That's Euronymous' label from Norway, Euronymous from Mayhem. And what's interesting is that I got this album, I found it secondhand from a very strange eclectic record store that no longer exists. A good 22 years ago I picked this up. And I remember when I picked it up that it had this cover, and I was opening it, I was going through it and went, hang on, it's got a second cover. It's not meant to have two booklets. There were 2 editions of this album. And I think this was first and then they followed up with that. I think that's how it worked. And identical aside from the cover art, but the edition I picked up, somebody must have stuck the second booklet in there. I'm not too sure what the history is with that, but there you go. That is the 2 different covers for Psy, Scorn Defeat. Really fantastic, early Japanese black metal. An interesting band indeed. Every album sounds very different, and they got pretty weird, but this one, Scorn Defeat, great album with very interesting artwork. Number 15, a band for you that defines metal. And again, this is pretty easy pickings for me. I'm not an Iron Maiden guy, and please stop shouting, Christ. Not a fan that I was ever big into. They were also before my time and not part of my metal history, not part of my journey. Some bands I missed along the way that were very influential. Judas Priest is one of those bands. I got into some of their stuff later, but Iron Maiden, not so much. And I know everyone else is picking Iron Maiden. But for me, a band that defines metal is the band that started it in my journey. It's Metallica. Fairly obvious answer. The name is in their name. Kill 'em all, man. Come on. This is the definition of metal as far as I'm concerned. It's not the definition of thrash metal, because at this point it's kind of more speed metal, it's kind of faster, heavy metal. But man, this is where for me it really started to go up a notch. Bands really started to follow rather than lead. I mean, they followed Metallica, and that's how we got thrash, really. So this album is massively influential, and is Metallica itself is just the band that was there for me at the start, and the start of their career was Kill 'Em All. So I don't know, I don't need to show you anything about this. Everybody knows this album. It is, for me, the absolute definition of metal. It's when anybody says to you, like, show me some metal, I would just show them Kill 'Em All, because it's the most metal defining album and band I can think of. There you go, Metallica, Kill 'Em All, 1983. Number 16, show your most metallic album cover. Man, this could have gone many, many directions, but for me, metal, proper metal, Attacker, Battle at Helm's Deep. Look at that cover. I mean, you've got Warrior over there, you got Conan with a giant axe, you got a big friggin' green dragon, some kind of goblin creature over there. It's all inside a castle. There's skulls and shit everywhere. This is metal. Attacker. This is metal. Come on. Metal. Number 17, an album that you disliked at first but now you highly regard. There's a few that I could have picked for this, but the one that I absolutely put on the first time I went, man, I don't like this, and then shelved it for a decade, and now I play it every other week, Demolik with Nesbith. This album for me, when I found it when I was about 16, was too much. It was the The style of death metal I was getting into at that time was more Morbid Angel and then Suffocation, and this was just too weird, and the vocals were too unhinged. It took me a while. And it doesn't help that the song titles are 2 paragraphs long each. This was just too much, and it really is the kind of death metal that you had to listen to over and over and then get there on your own. It's not immediate. It's not, wow, how good's that riff. This is thinking man's death metal, this stuff, and that's why Nesbith has been such an influential album to bands since. I mean, everything up to, say, Blood Incantation would owe a lot to the style on Demolich here. So that's one album that I would pick as something I didn't like and now absolutely love. Demolich, Nesbith. Number 18, the reverse of that question, an album that you liked at first and now disregard. I got nothing to show, so I'm going to have to put an image there because, as I said, I don't like it, I get rid of it. And that would be Children of Bodom with Hatebreeder. Now, I can't disparage this band. They serve their purpose, and people really, really like them. I can't argue the quality of the guitars; it's all there. But and in 1999, when I found Hatebreeder, it was all there for me too. I remember at the time putting together a top 10 albums list of all time, and I put Hatebreeder on it. Top 10 albums all time. I put a Children of Bodom there. Now I don't own anything from that band. They just aged poorly for me. That style of twiddly power metal that's trying to be death metal didn't work in the long term for me. So yeah, that's my pick, is Children of Bodom, Hatebreeder. Children of Bodom in general, a band that I used to like and no longer do. Number 19, a metal band that you think deserves more recognition. I can say nearly every band out of Australia needs more recognition on the global scene, and that for me definitely is true with this band, Golgothan Remains. Now, some of you are going to be sick of me talking about this because I talk about this band to anybody who will freaking listen to me. This is Perverse Offerings to the Void. I've seen these guys live 6 times now. It is Australia's answer to Immolation and Dead Congregation. Like, mix the 2 bands together, you have thick, evil death metal, and we have one in Sydney, Australia. It's amazing. Absolutely love these guys. Fantastic album. It's all they've released so far. I know they've made some new songs because they played them live, and then COVID happened, so not sure what's going on with the guys at the moment. But these guys just need to be more. There just needs to be more of them, more of the band known internationally. I'm pretty sure they probably have played international at this point, but just amazing stuff. They're on Sentient Ruin, so they're on an international label. So anyway, if you've not heard them, please check them out. Golgothan Remains, very underrated. And the last one, number 20, your Grail going into the year 2021. What do I really want to get? It's the same thing I've wanted to get for a while now. It's something that I have had in the past and then I sold 20 years ago, and I regret it every single day. I want back in my collection the original Nuclear Blast LP of Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. This is one of my top 10 albums of all time. The LP I had was fantastic and I sold it. Long story, but I had records, I had a decent collection, and I did not understand how to use and calibrate a turntable properly, so I was never satisfied with the sound. So I sold them all. Stupid me. We've all done stupid things. I know plenty of people have done exactly the same as me. Anyway, one of the biggest regrets that I had was selling this one, because it is very hard to find the LP again. Minimum cost of about 200 Australian to find it, and I can't find it locally. I've tried for a while. I'm going to have to import it, but really, I'm hanging on to it. I'm hanging on to the hope that the Nuclear Blast original of Like an Ever-Flowing Stream from Dismember will end up in my lap this year. Fingers crossed. Fantastic album. And that is the 20 list from the 20 questions from the Metal Tag for 2021. I hope everybody enjoyed and wasn't too shocked by my Billie Eilish response. Anyway, the music in the background we're listening to is Remet, Australian band. This is from the main songwriter and guitarist from Woods of Desolation. This is one of his side projects, more atmospheric black metal from the south coast of New South Wales. Awesome stuff. And that again is the 2021 tag. So hope you all enjoyed. Hope to see some tag responses, and thanks for watching.